their names. And I just, I was like, it can't be the names of our cats because it'll make us sound weird or something, you know. And so she came up with her friend William and Harry, and I thought, you know, Us Magazine, it works for me. It wasn't something that was that important to me, and if she was happy with it, I was. So that just really worked well for us. We talked about it beforehand and thought about, you know, why we wanted certain things to happen, and now we really enjoy them. That it's not something where I look at the cats as something she brought home and they're hers. And
we were able to compromise better and meet in the middle.
And the funny thing about discussing an issue with a cat is it's a small issue, obviously. I mean, that versus, you know, cheating on your spouse or, you know, the big issues or whatever. But, and the point is you got to resolve those. And, you know, they had an issue with the name. You know, how do you come up with a name when you got two people deciding on the name? And if you can come to terms with an answer to a problem, both amicably together, where you both understand what the answer is, you have to really solve, you know, actually every marriage problem needs to be solved or else they lead to psychological problems.
And in realizing that it's 50-50, I don't think I can be selfish sometimes, and I think reading the book and going through and the discussions with Tim, a lot of times I maybe would have just, in the past when we were dating, got the dog, or maybe kept beach bum and lifeguard. But it's beneficial to go through these things that you may know to be nice and 50-50, but how much do you really apply that to your life? So I think reading it and really going through and diving in deep, to, you know, with the philosophy and the background and the history and how things come together, human nature, it's really, really beneficial.
Definitely.
I guess I would add a little bit to that. It's what Tim said as well. Most of it is, you know, all of it's small stuff. It's always the little stuff. It's the trash. It's taking that out or this or that, or it's all about the small stuff adding up. And you can take on small stuff. You know, it's very easy to take that on, and it's so much harder to deal with a bunch of different stuff. You know, if you can take that down in little bites. If you end up getting 5 or 6 things that are a problem, that usually ends up seeming like something that's insurmountable, even though the pieces are all very, you know, trivial. So I guess it's always the small stuff, but it's fun to go over. You learn about yourself. I've certainly learned a lot about myself. I know that I have.
Well, that's one of the main points that we learned in the book, was that you have to know yourself, and I mentioned that before. So we've definitely both, you know, gone to the next level in terms of learning more about not only each other but ourselves.
And that's, I mean, they talked about the history stuff, you know, there's the world history stuff, and the whole analogy, I mean, there's so many analogies, but the whole world history analogy is the significance of your own personal histories. You have to understand your own personal development. You don't get angry just because I like to joke. There are reasons for anger, there are reasons for conflicts that are unresolved, and until you can understand your sort of participation in those conflicts, there's no way you can understand how to come to terms with them.
What would you tell our viewers is the most important thing to understand about their marriage?
I think to look at it in an optimistic way, in a positive way, but that it is a work in progress, because the two people in it are, you know, works in progress. And if I speak for myself, there are times when, you know, we've looked at each other and she'll, you know, I see that the way that she's looking at me, you can take it personally, or you can take her not understanding or her thinking that I'm not doing something right, instead of just going, oh, you know, come on, you know, you're not perfect. If I start from the standpoint of I'm absolutely not perfect, that gets me going right down the path that I need to be on, where a lot of the things that she tries to control, there are different kinds of control, positive and negative. Some of the things, you know, almost all of them all of them actually, are things that I can actually, you know, take a look at myself in business, interpersonally, in my relationships, in my life with my family, and with hers. More times than not, you know, she's got insight into me because she knows me so well. If I can be honest with myself and say, well, you know, you're not doing that so perfectly. You probably should have handled it like that. And I have to give her a lot of credit. I've improved in a lot of different ways. I have a couple things I'm still working on with the way I handle certain things. You know, making sure that I get the points across that are important for us as a couple, and things I need to make sure that people understand that I respect her and I'm with her on that. So it's been very good. I think she's helped me with a lot of things in business, just in the way that I prepare for certain things and the way that I approach things. So to say that she's invaluable is an understatement.
I think one of the most important things for the viewers to learn is that your spouse, your significant other, is the #1 priority, and not to lose sight of that. You know, Tim, from the beginning, it really hit home with me. He's like, you two are so in love, you're newlyweds, you're at the beginning, try to preserve that and try to feed that relationship, and don't lose sight of your #1 priority, and that's one another. And if it's everything's wonderful and you want to read equality because you should, and it, you know, it helps with the relationship, just to get you talking and discussing. You may not have problems, but just to keep working on it constantly, and I think that's the best way to go about it.
Excellent way of saying that. One of the biggest complaints about the book is its size and the scope. How would you respond to that concern?
Well, you know, marriages are not, there's not a Reader's Digest version of them. And I think a lot of people that have been married for a long time, you know, they've done a lot of work, and they've been through so many situations, and they've worked through a lot of things. And people that have been married for a long time I don't know of any examples where they aren't thoughtful and where they aren't genuinely committed to the other person and have them first and foremost in everything that they go through. So, you know, the Bible's not a short read, but I think it's worth reading, and I would say that it's absolutely necessary just to get you thinking, you know, and talking about things that haven't happened and things that have, and growing and enjoying the things that you come across together, as opposed to, you know, stumbling across them. So. And
I think it's important to realize, yes, it is a dense book, but once you just don't be overwhelmed, just get started. It's a ride, it's a journey. There's not just one topic. It really takes you through a process, and it could just take it one piece at a time, like we did. We did 50 pages a week. There you go. Just start there and discuss it with one another. It's really a great read.
Yeah, in fact, that's sort of the way I look at it. The way I've joked before is, instead of watching CSI the hour before you go to bed, you know, you and your spouse sit in bed and read together the same sections, and then discuss the sections together. I mean, what I did with these guys is I sat down with them once a week, and I went through them. And what I'm trying to do is get this book so that it's a self sort of book that anybody that reads it, I believe anybody that reads that book, and you guys can comment, will look anew at their marriages, particularly those marriages that have already started going down the negative, the path that they're trying not to go on. They will be able to understand why they've gone down that path, and the goal is to get them to revert back and to start again. And that's sort of.
I have to say that the book too, it's not, you know, it ventures off into different areas of Tim's experience. He's just a guy that's a wealth of knowledge. He's somebody who, when he reads a book, he takes it all in and then has use of it down the road for years and years and years. And, you know, he discusses Fortune 500 companies and different dynamics between companies, between countries historically, and just the nuances of where they went wrong and where pride got in the way, and the subtleties of that stuff. It's an interesting book, and, you know, after reading it, you're a more worldly person anyway, so it's full of stuff and things to talk about. So if you read it with a significant other, you're going to talk and you're going to enjoy talking about it, that's for sure.
Not only helps with your personal relationship, it helps all around.
Sure, yeah.
Working.
It's just flat out interesting.
Well, it's the whole knowledge thing. Knowledge is key, and knowledge is basically opening up your mind to the bigger world, the bigger picture. You know, when you're in the negative situation, you actually dive into your own hole, and the rest of the world becomes less significant. And the objective of the book is to open up your mind to the bigger picture, not only of today, but throughout history, to show the significance. Because the reality is, as we were just talking about, we've lost our significance, our understanding of marriage. It's sort of the last of the priority list today, unfortunately, instead of being, but in reality is the first. In fact, I've sort of discovered the Holy Grail, or actually Dan Brown, it's the woman's womb, and that's the reason why we're in existence, is the conception that happens in a woman's womb, and that's marriage. Your marriage is the most important thing that you'll ever do.
Well, there you have it, folks. Well, thank you. It was a pleasure sitting and meeting with you all.
Thank you.